Matt, so I'm so happy you're here with us today. Thank you so much. So everyone, Matt is co-founder of Eversound, and he has been working on inventing this and getting this out to the world for quite a while now. You've had some other experiences working with party headphones and all kinds of marketing work in your background, and you've got a sports degree. Tell me real quick, what were you thinking when you got a sports degree? What was your plan?
Yeah, I would say probably the best way to talk about it is my priorities were in a different place throughout college, and saw that as an opportunity. I love sports. I loved having fun. Had a lot of fun in college, but definitely looked at it as an opportunity to whether go work in a professional sports team in the front office. Then I went and did a couple of internships in that and realized I don't know if this is for me. So quickly pivoted. I've always been a part of like building stuff though. And it was a natural fit as Jake and I started working together when I was like 22, 23.
Okay. It's a pivot. So I've got a question for you on that. I want to just welcome
Yeah.
everybody who's just tuning in now. This is Koelsch Innovation Lab, where we look at, it's a series highlighting research and innovative pilots at Koelsch Communities. And so we work with CEOs and inventors, and we pilot their work, their creative work. Sometimes it's not even in the market yet. We just piloted a product from Japan. It's not even available in the United States. And, we work to try to find what's really cool that can make a difference in people's lives. And so that's what the series is all about. And we piloted Eversound several years ago and actually now implemented it across the company. So that's why we're having this talk today. If you are tuning in live, we'd love to hear your questions, your comments. Please go ahead and put them in. I'm going to tell you this. I'm giving away this book. It's called Brain Rules for Aging Well. It's by this guy. This is Dr. John Medina. He's a hilarious, super smart guy. And we're giving away his book, Brain Rules for Living Well, or for Brain Rules for Aging. And so I would suggest highly that you go ahead and put some comments in, ask questions, because we will be picking one or two people at the end of this who will get that book. But anyway, my first question to you, Matt, is why did you and Jake, who's your co-founder, choose to invest your lives in solving hearing and engagement challenges? Like, you could have done so many things. You could have created the next TikTok. You could have created the next, Uber for airplanes. But instead, you decided to focus on hearing and engagement. Why?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always think of the answer to that being, why not? But I think when we're first getting started, you mentioned the party headphone stuff because we had done another company that was helping people do silent discos in the special event space. And then, two things kind of happened simultaneously where we started getting phone calls from senior living communities asking for help, right? What they were saying is that hearing was such a problem in group programs and that everyone's hearing was all over the place. There was all the background noise. So they were looking for a wireless headphone system designed for group intentions with individual volume control. And it was around this time too that, I saw what my grandmother was going through. So you feel free to pull up number 6, Benjamin. But yeah, so this is what I used to look like about probably 32 years ago. But it was trying to help people like my grandmother. And really what I saw with her was her inability to hear, in addition to some other stuff that was going on, really limited the social component of senior living that I think a lot of communities like to talk about and promote, right? And I think that's a lot of times we move into those to have that sense of community. But she didn't have it. I mean, she would just isolate herself to her room, blast her television, listen to her romantic fantasy novels through her own headphone system. And it was really, seeing that. And it was around this time that, Jake and I, not knowing any better, just started walking into communities. And yes, thanks, Mom, for the comment there. And but yeah, we just started walking into communities and doing some of these early demos. And we'd walk out and before that, we would see the staff like crying. We would see them talking about a resident they thought that couldn't engage or was nonverbal. And they start like having these really moving experiences. And then we started having residents come up to us too. Like, one that sticks out is a partner in Ithaca, New York, where we started. There's two gentlemen by the name of Jim and Vern Rockcastle, which is probably still the coolest name I think I've ever heard. 93 years old, wore hearing aids. And he approached us after this meeting and basically said, it was a resident council meeting. And he said he had been going to this meeting for 7 years, and this was the first time that he was able to hear everything and thanked us. And that was just such like I think you think about like aha moments, and that was definitely it, where I think, this is really a testament to some of the early Eversound team and Jake especially, where we took a step back and we're like, whoa, we could create a company and do some good around it. And because when you look at some of the data and the research around hearing loss, I think it's just such a missed opportunity to help one's well-being, because hearing loss is tied to increased risk in falls, increased risk in depression. If someone has hearing loss, if they have moderate or severe hearing loss, they're 3 to 5 times more likely to develop dementia, which is just ridiculous when you think about it. But when you get to it, it's everything between the ears that's doing the listening. So, we saw this opportunity to create a system designed for an older adult user, senior living communities, and do good about it. And, I think when you say dedicate our lives, I've also dedicated some hair to it and eyesight as well. But it's just on this mission to improve the quality of life for those that, unfortunately, as a society, as a culture, have almost been, pushed to the side and forgotten about, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have Chattables from Florida is with us today. Beth from Charlotte, thank you for coming. Geneva, New York is here today. Thanks for being here. We got Lee from Montana. Good to see you again, Lee. And Will from Minnesota. So happy to have you with us. So, we're here today because of what you're doing, right? It's very innovative. It's very exciting. Families have been separated sometimes from loved ones for years simply because they can't really carry on a great conversation, even if hearing aids are in the picture. Sometimes that's not possible, especially with memory loss, etc. That may not be possible to use hearing aids really well. Sometimes we're just in noisy environments, and noisy environments make it hard to hear no matter what we're doing. And even if you don't need hearing aids, as we get older, just processing all of the stimulus can be very difficult in a noisy environment. And so what you're doing makes a difference for families. And I love to hear how you pivoted and went that direction because you saw it made a difference for your own grandmother. Did you want to show any videos about your grandma or anything? I can't remember if you had some videos or other pictures of her.
Yeah, so I think too, so early on, so I had a chance to try Eversound, an earlier version of it with her. So you can feel free to play 5 here.
Okay.
She gave me advice and answers, and I finally felt unstuck.
Hear it okay?
You've ever had?
Yes,
It's free.
loud.
And if you call
Loud?
right now, it's just $1 a minute. I used my psychic's advice, and
Well,
things are
no,
exactly
lower.
as they look.
You want it lower?
California Psychics.
No, I got-
Premier Psychic Network. It's just
Yeah.
$1 a minute. So call now.
She wears them too.
Yeah. So you can see here, I think we were listening to a little Glenn Miller there. And, it was really cool to see because she lived in New Jersey, and I would just go surprise her at times when I was in the area and just feel really fortunate to have had the opportunity to try Eversound with her. And she found it helpful. And I just am reminded of her of every time we hear these just moving stories of families being reconnected, because there's always a struggle with her, right? You'd have to yell to have a really good conversation, even if you consider that a good conversation. And I think the people that you love, the people that you're caring for, it's almost demeaning in a sense when you're yelling at them, and it's tough to carry on, those moments of connection, those moments of meaning.
So you had the idea of creating these wireless headphones that could work with hearing aids, that could be very durable, not breakable very easily, that could have a large distance between where the sound is coming from and the headphone, that could work in relationships as well as in a group setting. What were some of the challenging problems you solved in inventing this product and then implementing it? What were some of the challenges that you guys faced, you and Jake, that you found a way through?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in any entrepreneur journey, it's like a roller coaster, right? There's ups and downs, there's good days and bad days. I mean, there were times in terms of challenges where we didn't know if Eversound would work. We didn't know if communities would actually, pay to have it. We didn't know if the technology we were building, because Jake and I are definitely not technology people by any means. We brought on a CTO, Kostas Papadopoulos, who is our chief entertainment officer as well, who's an electrical engineer by trade and has built some really cool things. And if our paths didn't cross, he's been working with us for over 5 years now, we would not be where we are today. And I just think there's a lot of tech issues we ran into because we're not tech people. Jake and I are definitely on the sales and marketing and strategy and sort of that, the vision setting. So, and what I would also find with the challenges is that we're creating a product for senior living communities where there's staff involved, but there's also residents. So there's almost this two customers where you have to have the staff that feel comfortable with the technology and really make sure that they feel good about using it, and then giving them the tools to really showcase how it can work to the resident to try and defeat that stigma. Because I think if there's something we struggle with early on is a stigma coming out with Eversound, which I'm sure still happens today, but we learn it's all about how people introduce it and really trying to, incorporate them into that decision rather than being like, Benjamin, I know you can't hear, wear this because you'll tell me you can hear fine and probably stick it where the sun doesn't shine. But yeah. In terms of other challenges, I think there's always the concern about hitting payroll, right? And trying to do that. And Jake's been awesome in terms of like partnering with some really awesome people that are helping to finance kind of the growth and everything that we're doing in terms of our investors and our board of directors, which are just like outstanding individuals. And if it weren't for them, we wouldn't be where we are today either. And the hardware component takes a lot of money to get going from the front end because you got to get the molds, you got to get all that fun stuff. And it's definitely a process. Absolutely.
So Chattables has a question I think is really helpful. And maybe we'll kind of take a moment from some of the questions I had planned to really dive into exactly what is Eversound. Because Chattables is asking, is this a replacement for hearing aids? Not sure I understand exactly how it works, but it sounds amazing. So why don't you explain to us exactly what Eversound is?
Yeah, absolutely. So Eversound is a group listening headphone system or like an amplification system. And really how it works is, so there's like a transmitter, which I just so happen to have one next to me. But you can plug in any audio source directly into the transmitter. So think AV systems, computer, laptop, really anything with an audio out. And then on the back, there's a microphone in. So you can plug a microphone directly into that, which, we provide. And then whatever's plugged into the transmitter will then broadcast to all the headphones simultaneously. In each headphone, you can turn it up or turn it down. These are wireless. They are hearing aid compatible. So I wouldn't say they're a replacement. We designed them so people can wear it on the top. I have heard scenarios of people taking their hearing aids out and using this and actually find that they can hear better. But I think it's really because it's amplifying what people should be listening to at a level comfortable to them and helping to block out some of that background or ambient noise that can be, Benjamin, I think you hit it on the head earlier about being overwhelming or, too stimulating at times.
Because you have very directional microphones. So our staff members can wear a little microphone lapel. They can put a headset on. They can use a handheld mic, or you just came up with a new microphone that can either hang around the neck or be set on a table that's multi-directional. So there's a conversation among 6 people at a table or in a classroom. Everybody's voices goes right to the headphone. So that's part of what you're talking about with getting rid of the other noise. Is it's microphone based versus most hearing aids have one little microphone hearing the whole room. This is, we're giving the exact input we want the senior to be able to listen to, whether it's a movie, whether it's audio for an exercise class, whether it's a discussion from the lecturer, or whether we're taking a bus and we're doing a trip and the driver or an assistant is able to have a kind of curated conversation about what they're seeing. You're giving them exactly the sounds you want. That's why you're saying it's not quite a replacement for hearing aids, because we're not going to be in the bathroom with somebody with Eversound, right? They're going to need their hearing aids in that setting, potentially, or, just walking down the hall, but it's in settings where relationships need to happen. That's where Eversound really comes in and enhances that. Now, John asks, what is the range?
Of course. So the range, you're looking about anywhere from 250 to 300 feet in all directions. So about the size of a football field, right? And what's really, I've actually walked some of the larger conferences floors and it like picks up the whole thing. Granted, whatever's in a building in the walls might impact that overall range, but we designed it so you can have, up to 120 headphones to this. And we have a lot of communities today practicing this idea of, staying socially distanced, but socially connected at the same time. Because everyone can hear, it's kind of that front row audio experience, no matter where they're sitting in the audience or, where they might be.
And Chatterbox hits the nail on the head, says having everyone else wearing them probably takes away some of the stigma of wearing a hearing aid, which is absolutely true. If the whole team is like, we're doing a party, everybody's got the headphones on, it's so different than, well, you two have to have this special listening device. It's just a totally different experience.
Completely agree. And that's one of the things we advise. And what we find too is that with that, with the stigma side, we actually introduce it to have the staff to actually wear the headphones themselves, and then have some of the first parties be that the only way you can hear it is through the headphones. So it really promotes that adoption from the front end.
Love it. Love it. Now, Lee asked a really interesting question. How does the system differ from FM systems that hearing impaired kids use in schools? Is it because it's compatible with hearing aids? Is that the main difference?
So I think there's a couple of key differences here. And this is what we were looking at as we were starting Eversound early on. So we would notice that there would be these other FM systems that would be marketed to theaters, schools, auditoriums, houses of worship, senior living communities, and you see like the belt loop with the headphones plugging into that. There's a couple like the rabbit ears underneath. But what we really noticed was some of those systems are too complex for a busy program person that's running around to actually implement. And that the system too, like being hearing aid compatible, antimicrobial materials, we work with audiologists to really identify the frequencies that are most found, in hearing loss. But what we found, we needed to create a system that was tailor-made to an older adult user. So as you can see, literally it's just on and up, and they don't have to put anything on their belt. It's already connected to it, and it should be good to go. So we're trying to strive for simplicity. And then there's some things like, underneath the hood that design it specific to an older adult user for it.
Yeah, cords are out of the question for working with a lot of senior adults. Like, we're in wheelchairs, we're with walkers. We may not have a belt. We may have a long dress on. We don't have a space to be putting things in that got some kind of cord. It has to be wireless. It's really important to us. So I'm really glad you went the direction. Also, how light it is. It's not a heavy headset. It's a very light headset. It's small, it's discreet. It's not a big thing. Lots of things I like about that.
And one thing too, I've seen with some FMs, like, you got to keep dealing with the AA or AAA batteries. And like the way that our system is, the case itself, which I have right here, that travels with me everywhere. It's like I'm walking around with the codes to the missiles. But this thing charges everything. So you can plug the case directly in. So it moves around the community, and you don't need to necessarily have it stay stationary in one room, which I have seen with some FMs. So like they're built into the rack. You can use Eversound with the rack, but you can also bring it on the bus tour or bring it to the park and use it in those different capacities.
Yes, exactly. It's very portable. You're not constrained by power sources. Hello to Bern. Hello, Bern. Hello, Amy.
Hi,
Glad
Bern.
you're here. And Linda. Oh, good to see you, Linda. I'll see you tomorrow, Clubhouse. I see you're working in Los Angeles right now. Great. Okay, so my next question for you is, do you have any stories or data that show how this tech makes an actual difference for real people?
Yes. So I know so if you want to play number 2, and I'll preface this by saying, so this is John Birch. This is from a community outside of Chicago. We've named one of our conference rooms after him. I actually went and visited this community, and one of their residents at Central Baptist Village, and one of their residents, Charlotte, came up to me. They're doing like a little tech fair to raise money for their innovation committee. And one of the residents, Charlotte, came up to me and basically said, she led it with, I have a new name for your company. And I was like, oh crap, where's this going? Because everyone's brutally honest, right? And she goes on to say, I would name this Heaven for Hearing. And I was like, what do you mean? Tell me more. And she went on to say that she runs like a brain fitness class, and would use Eversound during that. And they just had people that would stop, or people before would stop showing up or leave out of frustration because they couldn't hear what was going on. But now they had more people showing up. The conversations were lasting throughout the day, and it was really helping with this sense of community. And they actually played this testimonial from John Birch, who was a resident there. So you can play that here.
If we're in a room alone and it's quiet there and I'm within 6 feet of you, I can very likely hear what you say and we can carry on a conversation. But if we would happen to step into the dining room where there are dozens of people talking and sometimes some music, I would not hear a word you say. They said we are trying out a new system. Put it on, and you know what? For the first time in 8.5 years, I heard every word that was said. They work beautifully. It's a miracle. I am sure that there are other people here who have the same problem that I do. I'm very vocal about it. When I sit down with people, I tell them, I am not antisocial. I just don't hear a word you say, so I can't be a part of your conversation. With this thing, I can see miracles we could do with it. Besides tic-tac-toe trivia, Bible study, even with activity programs when they would bring someone from outside. I have been living in a world of silence for probably 40 years. Now, with this system, I can hear. I don't have the money to purchase it, but I hope some of you people do.
And so they played that during during the fundraiser, right? And it ended up hitting their goal. So like that's one side of the spectrum in terms of like independent living, using it successfully. There's another story, Benjamin, I would love for you to share here of number 7 with Chris. And to tee this up, so this is one of our partners in the Southeast and the East Coast that were using one of our packages during the pandemic to help facilitate just safe visits, whether it was through windows or plexiglass. You know, behind me, I've got Ms. Josie, who celebrated her 100th birthday. Family was able to visit her and sing to her through the headphones. But this next one from Chris will give you goosebumps. So if you want to play that.
I'd really just love to share a feel-good story about the visitation package that Eversound uses, and something had happened at one of our communities. So we had a resident who lives in one of our communities who is close to end-stage dementia. And, you know, she hasn't had, you know, visits over the past, you know, even before the pandemic, haven't been overly functional because she wasn't able to, you know, really communicate and respond. And so after the pandemic started and the family started to come visit her, one day they decided to put the Eversound system on her so that she could hear the conversation of what her family was saying to her. And the resident actually spoke back to her family. And it's one of those feelings that if that doesn't give you goosebumps or chills, nothing will. Like, what an impactful moment for everybody involved that she was able to hear her family talking with her and she was actually able to respond. So it truly is a wonderful, wonderful program.
And so, Benjamin, you asked me at the beginning, right? Like, why did Jake and I choose to invest our lives in this? And I mean, when you hear stories like that, right, it just makes it that much worth it, and continue to give moments like that. Like I always think, you know, unfortunately, I don't have any grandparents anymore, but to think like the matriarch or patriarch of your family was thought to be nonverbal, unable to have a conversation with them, and then just using this piece of technology that a community adapted to help a problem that 80% of people are struggling with today, to have a moment like that. And like, we've had family members reach out to us saying, my mom said that she loved me today. I haven't had a conversation like that in years. And it's just those moments like, and I think the last video here, it would be number 1. And to tee this up, so this is the Thomas family. This is from one of our partner communities at Commonwealth Senior Living. And they have been married for over 40 years. Mr. Thomas, you know, developed dementia when Mrs. Thomas could no longer take care of him. she moved them into the local community. And on this day in particular, this was in a pre-pandemic world, they used Eversound to listen to their wedding song again. And Mrs. Thomas had shared that it was the first time in those 5 years where she felt like a wife and not just a caregiver. So you can play that out here.
Shed a tear. I'm gonna stand by you, honey. You know that, right?
Is that part of the...
Laura, take a picture for me.
And it's those little moments, right, Benjamin, of just like reconnection and connection. And, you know, we learned from the Thomas family that, you know, as is natural in life, unfortunately, Mr. Thomas passed away, but this moment meant so much to the family that they actually played this video at his funeral. And,
Wow.
And
Wow.
to think a piece of technology to have an impact like that is just super humbling and refreshing. And, you know, I share all of these stories, but we've had a group, Front Porch Senior Living on the West Coast, do like a 12-month study with 600 residents that showed Eversound measurably improved engagement, measurably improved understanding of the event, measurably improved mood in those living with dementia. We've had other groups do other studies that they kind of test the efficacy of new technology, which I definitely recommend in doing that and trying to get some data just to kind of showcase that ROI. And happy to say, like, we've seen attendance go up, staff happiness go up because they actually have a tool and don't have to raise their voices anymore. And it's all the simple idea of helping people to hear, right? And it's just such a simple concept and a simple problem to solve. That's where we start to see like these really positive, or these ever moments, we call them, these moments of reconnection really start to spark up.
I need to ask, there's a few more stories I think we want to tell, but Chattables asked the question, so can a family member borrow it when they visit their loved one? This assumes the loved one doesn't have a hearing aid. I would say, first of all, it doesn't necessarily need to assume the loved one doesn't have a hearing aid. Even if they have a hearing aid, many elders still have trouble hearing in a conversation, or if they have memory loss, they may not want to use their hearing aid either way. But still, go ahead and answer that question. Can a family member borrow it when they visit their loved one?
Yeah, so each community is a little bit different. We have had some communities will have like a pack at the front desk that community or family members can basically rent out to use with their family. You know, I think back to the story we heard from an adult child who basically said their mother could only typically hear 25% of what she would say on a good conversation. They used Eversound. She just rented it out from the front desk, had a conversation. And she said it was the first time in years she could have like a real conversation with her mother, which is just, again, it's just how do you put a price on that?
Yeah. I know, like at our organization with 40 communities across 8 states, we don't rent them out. Families can come in and just say, hey, can I use the Eversound system? And virtually every time it's available, there might be sometimes when it's double booked or something, and we just need to wait an hour or wait half an hour. But yeah, it's in some of our communities have leased the 2-pack or the 4-pack. Instead of having to have the big 10-pack, they've got a smaller pack that's available at the front desk or in the family conference room. So that's how we handle it at Koelsch. Linda with MBET Health Miracle Dressing Wound Care System says, great topic. Thank you, Benjamin, for continuing to inform those of us who are supporting older adults. Thank you, Linda. Linda runs an amazing clubhouse every Thursday at 9 a.m. where you can learn about some of the coolest products available for seniors all across the world. It's on Clubhouse, 9 a.m. on Thursdays, Pacific time. And then John asks, can you give us a general idea of pricing? Like,
yeah,
what are we looking at here?
Absolutely. So Eversound is a membership, but there's some advantages to that. The packages do start at $170 per month for our connection package, which is 4 headphones and 2 microphone transmitters. We are running a promotion now for any new communities coming online. The first month's $100, which is great because it waives the onboarding fee of $300. There's no like tens of thousands of dollars of hardware costs. We do have a 30-day happiness guarantee, so you can kind of think of that as a paid trial. But yeah, so in that membership, it has access to the hardware, access to anything becomes damaged, broken, falls in a toilet, which does happen more than we like to admit. We replace all that, no questions asked. And then we've got like an online database of activity and grab and go programs just to really help save time and provide, better things. I think we're all trying to get away from the 3 Bs and bingos, birthdays, and Bible studies. We can never take them away. We don't want any riots to happen. But then also we've got a support team, our community success team, that are really there to make sure that communities feel comfortable and confident in doing retrainings or being that coach or kind of that kick in the butt, just to make sure that communities are using Eversound to its fullest potential and being successful with it.
Awesome. Hey, great question, John. Beth shares, these stories are wonderful. Amazing how hearing loss isolates so many people. Now, I have a story related to that. So in one of our memory care communities, we had a woman who really would get very aggressive every afternoon about 1 o'clock. The team was helping her to take her nap because her family said her whole life she's taken a nap at 1 o'clock. We want her to have a nap at 1 o'clock after lunch. And so they would help her to her room, and she was very aggressive every afternoon. Well, as soon as we got Eversound and had her start using Eversound, she was able to talk to the team, and they were able to have a conversation. And she said, "Oh, you're trying to give me a nap? You think that's what I want to do? You think my family wants me to do that? No, hell no. I don't want to take a nap. I want to sit up and enjoy the sunset, or not sunset, but enjoy the TV show or whatever it was." Obviously, the aggression completely stopped because there was the ability to not be isolated in our own little bubble, but instead we were able to actually talk about what's going on. So often we think someone has dementia, therefore these problems that we see, aggression, anxiety, etc., are part of the disease. So often they just can't hear what's going on. And so by using something like Eversound, a person's able to hear again. These dementia problems, quote unquote, sometimes go away because the real issue is communication and relationship.
And it's funny you mentioned that, and I guess not funny is the right word, but one of our partners, Silverado, that's, a pioneer in helping those living with dementia, would use this as a strategy before resorting to medication. And they also said to us too that, they thought people might be a little bit further down, the dementia just because they weren't engaging, weren't speaking. And then they used this product and this service and realized that, yes, they were living with it, but it was more so they couldn't hear what was going on around them. And it's,
Right.
Exactly your point here, Benjamin.
Exactly. Two other quick stories I have for us. We have Devin could not hear his wife's voice anymore, and he lived at one of our communities. It had been a long time since they could really talk together. When we helped them by using Eversound, Devin lit up with a huge smile as he could finally hear his wife's voice again. Darla is 105 years old. She and her family could not communicate at all until our team introduced them to Eversound. In partnership with Eversound, our team empowered with their own set to use every day exclusively. It changed the family's experience of life with their mother and grandmother. So in other words, we made sure they had their own set that they could use all day, every day, because it was so meaningful to Darla at 105 years old. And then one other quick story. We had a... where did it go here? So Jack would not wear his hearing aids at home. So he lived in Longview, Washington. He would take them out. He would frequently lose them. He communicated his needs at home very difficult. It was very difficult for him to communicate his needs. He would mumble when he spoke, so family members could not understand him. He spent his day pacing around the house, unable to even watch TV. He couldn't even sit and watch TV, and he had a lot of pain in his legs because he was on his feet so much. When he moved into the Koelsch community, we offered him the Eversound headphones. He tried them on, and in a few moments, a big smile came across his face. He said, "Thank you. I haven't heard much in a long time." We asked him if he wanted to watch a movie. He said, "I haven't watched a movie in so long, I don't even know what a movie is." And then he laughed. We helped him watch Gunsmoke as his first movie using Eversound. He wears them every day now throughout the day, and he's able to hear what's going on in all the different programs. So thank you from our residents to you. You have changed people's lives, and we really appreciate that. Any other stories that you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, I think, another story that kind of pops up that is always just near and dear to my heart, and it would be number 3 here, because another founder that we haven't mentioned, Devin Jameson, who, he started Eversound with us, and he had his own personal story of Mama Bella, who was an amazing individual. She recently passed away, unfortunately, but she was living at home, lived to be 96, was living with dementia, had hearing loss. And this was her experience trying Eversound for the first time.
Can you hear me talking pretty?
My goodness.
You can hear me talking pretty clearly.
You're over here.
Yeah.
He's sitting on your shoulder,
Yeah.
practically, right? Mommy, can we tighten these up a little bit?
Yeah,
Can
for
they
sure.
Okay, hold on, Mommy. Wow, that was exciting right there. Oh my I'm
is that
sorry.
small? I think it's that small.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay, Mommy. These will be fine. These will be fine. Good if it's not too tight, actually.
How's that? Can you hear my voice pretty well? Is it clear?
It's very clear.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
I can't believe it.
Oh my gosh. Here, why don't you talk into it?
Okay. Well, your voice is actually a little sweeter than mine.
Your voice is so sweet.
Yeah.
And so when you see your family members having experiences like that, right? It's tough not to dedicate your life to something like this.
Yeah. Wow. Well, hey, I know we've reached the top of the hour and you've got a ton of things to do to continue this innovation. I do want to say to those of us who, if you're interested in hearing more stories about innovation and meeting other founders, just text this number and I'll be sure you get a memo, a text before the next episode comes up. I think our next episode, I believe, is a gentleman who designed a tool that makes it possible for seniors to actually do standing up exercises. And of course, there's many active adults who are seniors who do standing up exercises. But if you visit almost any senior living community in America today, it's all chair exercises. And just secret to let you know, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't really help you prevent falls. So this gentleman has come up, he's a doctor of physical therapy. He's actually designed a tool that so far research shows decreases falls by 400% if a senior living community rolls out significantly. And we're piloting in 3 of our communities. And so he's going to come and talk about S3 balance. So anyway, go ahead and text that number and I'll make sure you hear upcoming episodes as well as get the playlist of previous episodes. And if you are named John Gonzalez, or you are the person hiding behind the Chattables icon, you two have won the book today by Dr. Medina, and it's Brain Rules for Aging Well, and it's by Dr. John Medina. And if you text the number on the screen, we'll make sure that you get that book emailed to you. Just text me the number on the screen with your address that you want the book sent to. Thank you so much. You were the winners today. We appreciate that. So anyway, last words, Matt. What do you want we're going to have about 1,000 people probably watch this. What do you want people to really be aware of and sit with at 21st century? We now have tools that make it almost unconscionable to let someone live in social isolation because of hearing loss. Like there's almost no reason now to let that happen. What are some of your last words for our audience regarding this very important subject?
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that the listeners can take away here is just awareness, right? I think when you think of grandma or grandpa, it's like, oh, they can't hear. That's just, who they are. And, hearing loss, it's not a person, but it can define a person. And just looking to find tools that can really help with that. I think healthy hearing is an amazing practice that I think as a society and a culture, we hope to flip because that stigma is still there. But hearing loss leads to a lot of bad things, and take the necessary steps you need. Even if you think you have hearing loss, there's usually a 7-year gap from when you start having it. So you actually get help. So really just be proactive with your loved ones. And, I think we're all in here to make these moments of connection happen, right? That's why life's worth living. So looking for opportunities to create those moments, those moments of love, connection, and just in life.
I agree. And I'm so glad you gave that. Hey, shout out, John. Thank you, John. Thank you, Chattables, which I now understand is Amy Stapleton. It's good to hear from you, Amy. And so excited for you to be here today. Reach out, learn more about how you can get something like this for your mom. And Lee says, I'm a retired audiologist and I'm impressed with the system on so many levels. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lee. Appreciate that. So with that, hey, Matt, go forth, make a difference. We really appreciate you being here today.
And if you look at Beth Ginsty Reiner, see that picture? I'm trying to still have some hair in that photo there.
Oh, that's
so,
your mother.
That is my mother.
Hey, Beth, you raised a great son. He's a great guy.
Awesome.
All right, my
Thanks,
friend.
Benjamin.
We'll talk
Appreciate
soon.
it.
You can hang for a second, Matt.
Okay.